So, interview with my son James Marcel Fielder.
Interview with a vampire.
14th of January 2022. Topic: God, life, generally.
Yeah.
And let's see what comes out of this
let's do it.
Young guru guy.
Yeah, I'm not a guru.
We'll start.
Everyone's a guru.
Start with a question number one. Very plain, simple, but it will open up other things.
Yeah, that's right.
There's 8 questions.
Okay.
Do you believe in God?
Define God.
Is it a man with a beard?
If you want me to answer that, do I believe in my definition of God or your definition
No, it's yours,
of God?
not mine. Well,
do I believe in God?
Well,
yes.
call him whatever you like if you want.
But your definition will be different to my definition.
I'm doing the interview. You were answering the questions.
If you define what is God, I will tell you whether I believe in God.
I can't define God, and
then there's no question.
Okay, so you can't answer. Do you believe in God?
I can't answer because you can't define what question you want to ask me, so I can't answer it.
Well, listen,
it's too ambiguous.
I've interviewed 362 people.
Oh shit!
And everyone's been able to say, well, what I believe God is, or the name God.
Oh, I can do that.
I
can do that. I can do that.
What is your opinion of him? You don't have to use the word. I know him as God.
Is there a higher power that is beyond, which is above us in a hierarchical sense?
Yeah.
Then the answer is yes, because we know that to be true, because in everything we can observe in life, there is hierarchy. Sure, there's hierarchy.
So the person that everybody refers to as God, do you believe in the person that people refer in God? For instance, is he the man with a beard?
I don't think God is a man.
You don't think he's a man?
I think God can be a man.
Why is he depicted as a man?
God can be everything, because it's the well, that's only in like theistic faiths like Christianity. No?
Which is a faith, yeah. There's lots of other faiths. Well, what does, for instance, Muslims? They believe in hierarchy and something.
They believe there's only Allah. That's it. That's it.
Could you call Allah the God equivalent in Christianity?
Yeah, it's the same God.
Right.
It's the same God. The Muslims will acknowledge that Allah is the same God as the Christian God, and is the same God as the Hindu, the ultimate God in Hinduism. And
I mean, the Egyptians use gods a lot. I mean, there was so many of them. The god of fire, the god of the Nile, the god of the mountains, the god of the one eye, the god of. So what I'm saying is, God is widely used in history.
Yeah, but I mean, actually, in all these traditions, like in Islam, I think they've got 1,000 names for God. It's either 100 or 1,000. So, I mean, it's not, but all is Allah. And the same in India, there's thousands of names, different definitions.
People have made their own name for the person that they look up to as the highest.
Yeah.
But it leads on to the next question, which is God an invention to help people to get over deaths and tragedies? Do you believe that?
It's an invention. Is God an invention to help people get over?
Thank you, God, for helping me with.
Well, I think everyone's understanding of God has to be a personal understanding of what they experience in this world. Because it can't be talked about or shared from somebody else.
I think you're off screen now.
It can't be. I can't tell you, there is God, believe me. I tell you there's God, you believe me. You can't believe me because there's no proof by me saying. In your experience, there's no proof by me just telling you something.
No, but there's lots of religious people telling lots of people in the world that God is going to look after you. You believe in God, and He will help you.
But I think the best religions, or all religions, are trying to give a framework of understanding for you to understand God within yourself. So, for example, if you take the Bhakti tradition in India, that's like being passed down from millennia. And the framework within the tradition of Bhakti Yoga is to understand God by personal experience. And you can do that by repetition of mantra, sacred offerings, such as like the thought of something bigger than the self, and just a general surrender in life. Just
Brilliant when you get to an educational level that you can think on that plane. But when you're born with nothing at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have no understanding of
Yeah.
God, you have no understanding of Allah, no understanding of anything.
And the children are the most godlike of all people, no?
Well, they're the most innocent,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
But so somebody has to give you information to be able to put it into a logical state, whether it's the history of God in all sorts of different ways. You know what I'm saying? So you're born with nothing. So do you is it something that you're inventing? No, you're not. You don't get born and suddenly think, I'm going to invent somebody called God or Allah or whatever it is. So it's been around a lot of time. I mean, forever, I suppose.
Yeah. But I think the shortcomings of like humans trying to define God is that they're trying to do it within the limitations of what is their scope of consciousness and their mind. But if you think if God is real, then God is so vast, so intricate, so so beyond the perception of what we're able to understand, that it's almost a rhetorical question that we can't really answer it based upon speech, but we can use techniques and use practices to come to a personal understanding which is internal of something else. Define it as God or define it as consciousness or intelligence.
Is it a being? Is it?
I'd say it's intelligence of nature, which we define as God.
So was God invented? I'm saying God, as I've got to call him something, call him Harry, George, whatever. But I mean, names are names. God is. Do you think somebody invented God then as something to help people with the tragedies that they have in their life? Something to look up to or to.
I think through history, humans have been plagued with corruption and dominance, and the patriarchal figure that the Christian faith uses as God has been put forth on a pedestal and used as a kind of tool to dominate people. And actually the church for many hundreds of years, thousands of years, was kind of had a lot of corruption in it, and they used it by fear, using the God as a kind of like a warmongering kind of fear type character, like God will strike you down if you do not do this and give us money and whatever, and abide by these rules. And the rules that were set out by the church were used to govern and oppress people.
So he was invented as a weapon of war.
Yeah,
because he was.
But by definition, which is why so many people these days have turned away from the typical religious traditions because of the history. And I mean, there's kind of a stigma about the church in a lot of people now because of the Crusades and all the bad things that have been done in the name of God. The killing of millions of people in the name of God. Well, if God is real, then that is the opposite of the definition of God, because
it's supposed to be good. This is bad.
Exactly. Well, God is beyond good and bad, actually. God is beyond good and bad, because what we are, like our essence is that of soul, which is immaterial. So actually, good and bad is subjective within a material perspective. So, obviously, somebody kills someone you love. You perceive that as bad, and it really is bad. I mean, we can't come to any conclusion that it's bad because it's horrible. But we're thinking from a materialist perspective, and somebody's been killed, but actually their soul has moved on, perhaps to another life, perhaps to a different plane of consciousness.
That's going on to another.
Okay.
It goes later on. I come on to that.
Did I diversify on the question
You
too?
did. Well, you're going to diversify on all of them, to be honest. But that you've got to start with the question.
Yeah.
But what I mean, I'm not saying my views on it because I'm not the one that's been interviewed. So it's you.
So this is a swap around. So I can become the interviewer with the questions.
You could do. I won't have an interesting answers like you do.
No. That's subjective. That's subjective.
I probably might be a little bit to the point more.
Yeah,
so,
I think somebody would find your answers more interesting than mine, and vice versa.
Well, it's
depending on the
stimulation
person.
because you're stimulating other questions that I don't have, to be honest. But so to finish number 2, God, who He's called in for this particular interview, must have been invented sometime.
Has the name of God been corrupted?
Oh,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Has it been used? Yeah,
but it's also been used in very nice ways. People have had some nice experiences and able to help them and comfort them during times where there is sickness and death.
That's possible.
You can say you do it on your own if you wanted to and pray to God. Or you can pray through somebody. I mean, forgiving in the Christian church, and you go to say, I've sinned your sins, or this is the Roman Catholic, you've sinned, and normally you get forgiven for those sins that you've done because you're honest to come out with it. Yeah. But there's only a person that's representing the person that you think is going to forgive you. And He's going to forgive you because why? Because just love of God and.
But
He's not going to say.
I have a problem with this kind of repenting of the sins, because if you think that every time you do something wrong that you can just go and repent and then everything's fine, then where is the grounds for you not to recommit the same sins?
That happened with the kings.
So that's ridiculous.
Everybody that all of the main leaders. Religious leaders, not religious leaders, kings, queens, and everything else, used to go to confess. Used to call the priest and confess the sins, and then they'd go back out and kill a load more people. But it made them feel better. And he's not going to turn around and say, "You've got to stop doing this now because you're such a bad person." It's the king. Yeah. Okay. All right. So,
but furthermore, to the point of you were going like God is comforting, people if they're in sick or whatever. You don't necessarily. There doesn't have to be a point like where you're sick or whatever to surrender to what is the nature of God. It can happen at any point in life, and if you've been brought up in that environment, you can do that from day one. So perhaps there's more. I don't know what I'm saying. Really.
You have to educate yourself to a point where you can accept or not accept. Lots of people grow up believing in God because they're told to believe in God. And they go to church and etc. Some people then not interested anymore, like the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses, which is a bit stricter than the way I was brought up to. Definitely. To have to believe in God. I'm sure my mum and dad would have liked it, but they didn't interfere when if I didn't go to church and didn't and say I didn't believe in it for whatever reason.
But I mean, I think perhaps in the last 50 to 100 years, there's been less reason to believe in God than ever because there's been more distractions than ever. I mean, just engaging in the world. There's so much
called
to
World
do
Wars.
and
I
see.
mean, they're pretty. I mean, not just World War I, World War II. Going before that, I mean, there was so many tragedies that if anybody had God in the mind to be able to overcome all of this. And the old thing is, where is he? He's not helping. He should be there to help us.
I wouldn't say, like some people say, all the wars in the world are because of people saying God and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it's not necessarily true, Some of the biggest atrocities actually in human history, such as the Holocaust, the Gulag Archipelago, you know, where like actually probably up to like 100 million Russians were slaughtered in the hard labour. Like they were like devoid of any kind of spirituality or God consciousness or God awareness.
It was just the badness of the person that was running that at the time. Like Hitler.
It was extremes, wasn't it? It was extreme fascism disguised as like what did they call it? Like some kind of National Socialism, which was actually like straight out fascism, and then the other side of that, which is pretty much the same thing, is like strict like Marxist communism, which was also
don't remember Hitler mentioning God in any of his speeches.
No, he was very against God actually.
Was he? So he was an atheist then, in believing in the word atheist being not believing in God.
Yeah. Guess so.
I can't remember any speech where he said bless.
No, he burnt all the Bibles, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. So he's very anti.
So he's very anti. But they didn't hold that against him particularly.
I think he was like taking a lot of stuff from like the philosopher Nietzsche and like the idea of the Übermensch, I think it was, which is like the Superman and like the like the Aryan race and the dominance and all that. Yeah. But that was like corrupted because Nietzsche was wild but a decent guy. But
not Hitler.
But Hitler just corrupted it.
Question number 3. Thank you for that. That's sorry, I haven't answered that question either. But number 3. Do you believe in simultaneous dual lives? For instance, you and someone else in parallel, multiple James, for example.
Multiverse.
Is that what it's called? Is it called multiverse?
Yeah, it's been postulated as a multiverse. I think there's like absolutely simultaneous, there's countless universes and dimensions which exist, perhaps parallel, perhaps simultaneously to each other. Of different planes. I mean, actually in the Vedic literature, they have like 9 planes. Like 9 dimensions, and I think we're on like the 4th dimension. And like
who's we?
Human beings. Like this is like the 4th dimension, and it goes down like, and the lower dimensions there's what's called as asuras, which would be more like kind of like demoniac type dimensions, which could be described as hell, like in the Christian faith. And then the very top dimension, I think, is Brahmaloka. Anyway, that's basically like
I remember that
the God dimension or whatever, like the place of the highest beings.
So to answer the question, you do believe that there could be multiple simultaneous lives parallel with your own.
Yeah, but I think if there's other iterations of me, they're not really me, in the sense that I don't know how much choice. I don't think the argument is like, in this life, how much free will do we have, and how much is life just going to play out because there's only one way for it to play out?
Well,
do you know what I mean? Do we actually make choices?
We have as much free will as we want to have. All of us, we're free. As far as I'm concerned, we are free. We're free to do whatever we want. It's going to be against society. Lots of it, and against the law. But we have as much free will as we want. If somebody decides tomorrow that that's it, finished, I'm going, then he can do it. Yeah. Can he not?
Yeah. But then there's an argument that there isn't any free will and everything's already been predetermined.
Well, that is another possibility. I mean, I'm going to jump one question here, and I'm going to go to 5, which seems to be a follow-on from this simultaneous lives and parallels and everything else. Do you believe, is there a heaven and hell, as some religions believe, where we end up after death, if of course there is a death as we know it? So is there a good place and a bad place? Do you believe?
I mean, one line of thought is, if you take a body, then you are subject to suffering.
If you take a body,
like we've got bodies, so we're subject to suffering because the body grows old, it has pains, and all the rest of it. And actually we're subject to mental suffering on top of physical suffering as well. So this, in a sense, could actually be a heaven or a hell right now, depending on how we are, how we think, what our state is, physically and mentally. What you're saying is the heaven and hell in terms of like you go down to hell and above to heaven.
That's what it's been described as being. But you're always looking up and thinking that's heaven. This is a place in a cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's fantasy.
Yeah.
But is there actually such a place where you drift up and you're in the nice part? But if you've been a bad person all your life, there's somewhere else.
So that's the law of karma. So I definitely believe in the law of karma.
You do.
And I definitely believe in different planes of consciousness and being. And I believe there is planes of consciousness and being which are which the soul can operate within beyond this world, which are
after death.
Yeah,
as we perceive death to be.
Sure, but death is just change anyway. Death is a change of state.
That's why I said it's of course death is as we know it.
Energy can't be created nor destroyed.
Right. Is there any energy left in us when we die?
Well, absolutely. The moment the soul leaves the body, you'll notice a difference in the weight, and the weight is the soul.
Immediately.
This is 28 grams actually.
Is it 20? Is it?
As per the film. There's a film.
Yeah,
28 grams.
I can remember reading something about that. They did tests on loads of people that died, and there was definite change in. I mean, it's not just air and wind, is it? Because air can weigh something, can't it?
It's transcendental. I don't think we can define it because we can't define the soul.
I mean, there's wind, as air comes out of your body.
It's not air. Air's material.
Well, what's in your body then? Gas.
Yeah,
gas.
Yeah, but.
Well, isn't air
the soul is like energy, like prana, as it's known in India. I mean, we can't define it. We don't have the tools to measure this thing because it's transcendental.
It's not a lot, though, is it? Well, actually, it is. It is actually 28 grams. It's a lot.
I don't think. I mean,
no, it's 4 lots of risotto.
28
mushrooms.
Grams.
4 lots of. Well, I put 8 ounces in.
We shouldn't get caught up in the weight, though.
So
I think that the soul's supposed to be within the stomach, like in the very center of the stomach, and it's supposed to be like in the Vedic scriptures 1/10,000th of a hair in terms of the size, so it's microscopic.
Well, it's hard to measure then, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's just change track a little bit here. Before we go on to another one that's linked to that, do you believe in aliens or extraterrestrial intelligence?
Yeah, there's 8,400,000 species in existence. Different creatures, in existence.
Are you talking about animals as well here?
Yeah, and not all of them are from this planet, for example.
Right.
So.
On Earth, there is 8 million.
I think in all the universe, actually.
Oh.
This is how it's been written.
Oh, really?
So it seems plausible.
That there is aliens, or we call them aliens.
Yeah,
it could be called whatever.
Oh, there's countless, unpressed amount of life out there. Yeah, definitely.
I've got an answer out of that one. That's a yes.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
That's a yes. That's the most. It's a good question.
An interesting one to read about is the Fermi Paradox, which questions this. If you go on Wikipedia and read about the Fermi Paradox, it's like you like it. It's about like calculating the plausibility of alien life out there.
Calculating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a mind boggler.
Is it?
That's why it's a paradox.
Well, it's paradox. I like paradoxes. So another very simple question. This one: How were we created?
The soul, or
we humans, or are we just a body?
So the soul enters the body in the 3rd month.
So how was this created then? How is it? How we were all tend to believe that God created us, and Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden started the old. That's what it. That's I saw the books, so they must be right. you know, I had photographs of Adam and Eve. It was beautiful, done in all lovely colour.
I think
And as I'm growing up, I've got these little books, and I'm
that's
thinking.
really cool.
So the question is, how were we created? How did we just suddenly become?
We can't explain that in words. I think that's such a complex question. But
Is there an answer to it? Does anybody know?
Well, the answer is
We don't know.
some intelligence beyond our scope of understanding is the creator and all of creation.
But we don't have
we
a
can't-
name or we don't
We
know.
can't define that. I mean, if we could explain this, surely we could do it. We can't make anything, though, can we?
So,
Everything we make is immaterial. Like it's just like.
but you obviously
objects.
don't believe in the story about Adam and Eve having a
I think it's more metaphorical.
right.
Like the serpent and the Garden of Eden. I think it's all one big metaphor.
Okay. Well,
For life.
who actually made all of this up then? Nice story, wasn't it? Because Enoch
Well,
Wright moved around
it's
there.
biblical. It's Genesis, no? So
We're going Bible,
it
so
could
we're
be
going.
several thousand years
This is after
before Christ.
before Christ. This is after the
Old
Egyptians.
Testament.
Which is another interesting thing. The Egyptians fascinate me.
Yeah. So Egyptians, or because the Egyptians inherited the pyramids from an older civilization,
Right.
and then they recarved the Sphinx into a pharaoh, which used to be a lion,
Yeah.
and they used it as tombs. But originally, the pyramids were used as energy centers, astronomical devices to harness the power of the earth and energy through the ley lines of the earth.
Which is why lots of people think that it was designed and built by extraterrestrials because of what they did with it.
But
So you believe the Egyptians were intelligent enough people to be able to use these
they just
buildings,
used them as tombs.
just tombs.
Yeah,
They weren't drawing energy
think-
from
no,
any other
it
source.
was pre-flood. The pyramids
It was pre-flood.
were pre-flood because there's water erosion lines around all the pyramids
So
and
they
around
flooded?
the Sphinx. Yeah, the earth was flooded
But
in
if-
12,600 BC when a comet hit the North American peninsula. We were plunged into an ice age for 2,000 years. Pre that, we had extremely intelligent civilizations on Earth like Atlantis, the Babylonians.
Before that,
They are pre that. So
did they all die? Did they all?
no,
perish?
there was survivors. That's how we're here now.
Well, how did the pyramids survive during the floods then?
They were incredibly built. No, I mean, have
mean,
you
the
seen them?
cham-
They're
the
like
chambers.
solid stone covered in gold and gold.
Were the chambers then waterproof?
I don't believe water.
I mean, it's concrete.
Who knows?
I
Who
mean,
knows?
concrete's concrete. I mean, I don't remember
knows?
them painting the side with impermeable paint or anything. I think.
No, but they were. The whole pyramids were like lined with like solid gold, weren't they?
Yeah. I would
And
say-
then that was all
yeah.
stolen
It was
over
all
time,
stolen.
and
That's
now
why it just looks like stone, but it was all
Yeah.
stolen.
yeah.
So
So what was the question?
how
that
were
digressed
we
from?
created? That's the question.
So that's
So it's an impossible one
answer
to even this.
I mean, we can't create life. We can't go. You can't. There's nobody in the world who you go. Okay, create a cat, create a fly. You can't do that. That is
they can
grand
they
intelligence.
can be born
there.
by us putting two animals together and
Yeah, but we
making-
can't create it from scratch.
No, absolutely
We can
not.
tinker around and
Not-
mess
not
around
even in
with
a
the
laboratory.
creation. Not even.
No, I'm going to ask these to Frank as well. By the way, these
This is
questions.
brilliant. Yeah,
I mean,
it's really
can you
good.
imagine Frank answering these? I would.
I think you should do it with. You should do a recording, and this can be your set of questions to ask to many people.
Yeah,
Many
well,
interesting people.
You're the first
like
person
Frank,
I've asked them to.
Swanee.
Oh yeah, we'll get
Tommy
Swanee on this.
Tittlemouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've only got one yes and one no out of 6 questions at the moment. So that's it. The rest of them are very deep into all sorts of other possibilities
Tangents.
to the answer to the question.
Yeah.
So number 7.
Yeah.
Do you believe in spirits, and can you communicate through meditation with anyone or stroke bodies?
We're spirit souls, so yes. That's
So
our
is
essence.
that a yes?
That's
So
our essence.
You do believe that we can communicate and spirits can communicate through thoughts, meditation?
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
we're spirits and we're communicating now.
Are we spirits?
Spirits that have took bodies.
Spirits took bodies. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
But can we? Yeah, I mean, mediums and different talented people who've got certain skills can communicate, and also past life regressions and things in people. It happens. It's
there
real.
Are people that can, or has everybody got this facility to be able to do it?
Perhaps.
Or is it some people that have more of an ability?
Yeah, but yeah, for sure, definitely.
We've heard about Gary Fowler, for instance, with Palm.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I mean, it can't be a trick, can it? You can't just suddenly come with back of playing cards. So there are some people that are on a different spiritual level than us.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's probably to do with...
Or me, maybe. Not maybe you, but certainly me.
You know, I think there's like unseen hands, you know, there's so much we don't know about our existence that is affected from thousands, millions, billions of potential past lives, you know, to come to this point that affect this life, you know? Yeah. Like the laws of karma will act in this life from past lives as well as our actions in this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, we can't necessarily know all of these things. Some people get glimpses or inherently know, like, you know, or, you know, I'm just drawn to an ancient culture for this and that reason, or I have flashbacks from this crazy time and, like, it's unexplainable, or I remember I'm scared of water.
Deja vus. I mean, we've all had deja vus, whether or not it's been
interesting
in our lifetime, and we've just forgotten that we were in that situation, or somebody else has had that same experience and giving it to you because it's your alter spirit, or
it's very otherworldly, a deja vu, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, it's
I used to get lots of them.
It's amazing. Isn't
no,
it?
I get
it's
them.
Like there's that space of time, and within the deja vu, everything stops, and you're completely present in the moment.
Thinking, I've done this,
and it's a wow. It's a wow moment, isn't it? It's like,
it is. Yeah.
And then it goes, and then you're like, "Whoa, what just happened?"
Yeah.
And it's inexplainable.
Well, it is, because you just push it off as saying, "Well, I must have had this thought before."
Yeah.
But sometimes we've been to a place and we haven't been there, but we have. We feel comfortable with it. We just feel as if somewhere along the line, I know this. Is it from because we've seen it on the internet, that particular place, or what?
Another consideration is that of the dream state as well. You know, what is dreaming? Where do we go when we dream? Is that a different plane of consciousness? Absolutely. Is that all a manifestation of mind in our experience in this world?
Yeah, we all have some wacky dreams sometimes, and sleep patterns are very interesting, I'm sure, for lots of people, and people study them, of course. So the final question on this very interesting interview, do you have any other firm beliefs in life that hasn't been covered in the previous 7 questions?
Firm beliefs. On what level? On
anything really. I mean, not about the European Cup, who's going to win that and stuff like that. I'm talking about any religious or godly, spiritual beliefs that you really think, I'm up on this.
Yeah. So continually work on the self from a state of surrender, and then understanding and wisdom will come in time.
Surrender to whom? Surrender
to life. Don't fight it. Don't fight change, because you can't do anything about it.
Right.
So accept change and surrender to the change.
And what does that give you if you do surrender? And
wisdom and awareness, knowledge.
Wisdom, awareness and knowledge.
That's how it's always written.
Okay.
In every tradition says, well, you know, some traditions will say surrender to God. Accept God in your life.
You know, for instance.
I mean, you don't have to say God. I mean, if you take a Buddhist, they say, okay, I'm going to sit in meditation I'm going to calm the mind by focusing on different parts of the body, and then body scanning, and then breathing, and then my awareness will be free, and there'll be no thoughts coming into my mind, and I'll just be in a state of pure awareness. And that is this surrender without the definition of surrender to God, to a higher power. The Buddhists went about it in a different way.
Do the Buddhists believe in a God? Or God, or what do the Buddhists believe in?
No, but it's all kind of it's all to do with the definition, isn't it, of speech? That they believe that everything is a manifestation, really, of the mind, and there is only consciousness, or the Dharma, or the great Tao in Taoism. You know, just one life force, one energy that creates all things. That we all come from, return to, and start again.
Is this not just an alternative form of God, heaven, hell, and praying and giving yourself to, for whatever time you do, to praying to God and giving yourself to Him, whoever He may be? Isn't it sort of the same thing but different names and different...
By saying he, you're defining God as a man.
It's funny you said,
or a patriarchal figure.
I mean, I suppose chauvinistic by saying he.
No, we live in a patriarchal, male-dominated society. So that's the indoctrination of our society that makes us automatically think that it's normal.
It wouldn't sound right saying it, would it? And you wouldn't sound right saying she. Because from
it's difficult.
From when we were born, the first thing we understood was that Jesus was a he. And so,
but Jesus was a man. Jesus is not God.
No, he's not. But then you perceive God to be a he through Jesus, and I don't know why that is, but you do.
Well, if you look at the books, and Jesus looks like a white man, and
he looks Jewish, doesn't he?
Well,
he's got a big beard.
He should have dirty coloured skin, shouldn't he? You know,
no, he's a bit suntanned because he was out in Palestine.
I've seen pictures where he's like clearly a white man.
Oh, really?
I mean, everyone paints.
Are you going to say the next religious film that comes out is going to be Jesus going to be black? Why aren't we making films about black Jesus then?
Well, I don't think black people live in Israel or Palestine.
They didn't then, but they do now.
Do they?
Oh yes. Well, you said that.
I don't know. I haven't been to Israel.
Not allowed in. We're not allowed. You're not allowed in. You're black. Sorry.
I've never seen any black Jewish people.
Jewish. Let's have a. Yes, you've been circumcised. You get in. David Ventris can go on his holiday now. When he gets himself done.
When he gets done.
Well, he hasn't been done yet, but when he gets done.
Wow.
Well, fascinating. I'm going to conclude this interview with James Marcel Fielden. And fascinating insight into the mind of a young man, really, compared to me.
Middle-aged man.
A young man comparable. And be interested to see how we get on with Swanee and Frank and Helga.
All the rest of the gang.
And anybody else who wants to take part in this interview.
And if you ask me these questions on a different day, I answer in a completely different way every day.
I don't think you're going to be far off with the basics of your answer.
No,
I don't think you're going to say to me, do you believe in God? You're going to say to me, yes. You'll never say that. Well,
do I believe in God?
Well,
yes.
Because, and it was right for you to query.
What was my answer?
There wasn't an answer. There wasn't answer because you asked me to define who God was, and that's how I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But you have your own. I mean, when you read the books, any of the books, there's always a name for that particular God. Could be in another form.
Yeah.
But it's still the person that we're supposed to look up to for comfort and if it's comfort, it's nothing else. You don't look up to God. Please allow me to kill this man because I hate the bastard. No, you wouldn't look that. You would look up all the time for help me. Please help me. It's somebody that's what I'm saying. Is it an invention that somebody made because they were having such a bad time and they thought,
everyone has a purpose in life, you know, according to what they were meant to do, right? Like,
do we know what we're meant to do?
Well, if the mind is clear and pure, you can see the path in life that's set out for you.
Wow.
You know?
I don't know
But-
if I've ever seen mine, but...
You know, it's like the mind is like a mirror that's where dust has settled for many years, and by different practices this mirror can be wiped, and when you wipe the mirror of the mind, suddenly you can see the reflection for the first time. It's not all murky and
Can you see the true self then?
exactly that's the idea. And
Finding the true self,
and-
the true me people talk about.
And the mirror of the mind is the gateway to the soul. And to be able to see with clarity the soul is the gateway to what is known as God. So through the
Right.
Atman, the soul in the self, one can realise what is God within the nature of God from a personal perspective, because it can't be taught, it can only be experienced from a personal perspective through surrender, the
We have
process
to
of
give
surrender.
ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. That's
Yeah.
that's understandable.
And to do that, it's like taking the Buddhists call it samskara in the mind, which creates fear, which are like samskara, like little imprints in the subconscious mind that come from just living life, that where fear rises. And as we uproot these samskaras, which are the fears, and go beyond them, then things become clearer. This is how it's written. I've kind of made a tiny bit of progress over 4 years
Wow.
through my life journey, perhaps. But, you know, I'm just starting to understand the potential of what is possible from practice.
And when you get further in onto this road, how is it going to help your life?
Happiness.
Happiness.
Complete happiness.
If you had a couple of words you can give for describing what your life should be, would happiness be one of them?
It's the goal of life.
The goal.
Well, to be happy within the self, which then naturally brings happiness to others.
Other people.
Because you act in a happy manner, and you want to help other people, and that process is really, you know, what everyone should look for.
We should all.
But it's so difficult.
Well, yeah, because there's all sorts of shit around.
In
But
this age, it's the most
you-
difficult. This is known as Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. How it's been written.
for now,
Since 5,000 years ago it started,
Mm.
and it'll run for another 200,000 years. It's the shortest of the ages, I think.
we won't be around soon to find that.
No, in a different form,
Or
perhaps.
maybe in a different form. I'm happy to come back as some other form. If it is, yeah,
Not
be
an animal.
Sorry,
A human
Pam, I know.
form's a
And
good
we're
form.
about to. Thank you very
Very good.
much, everybody. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Nice to see
That was
you.
interesting.
Good.
Ah, hearts.